Much for joining us this afternoon, either in this room or beyond this room. It is important that we set in context what we are going to do today. I think this is probably one of the most exciting announcements I've had the pleasure, the honor and the privilege of making since I became Chief Minister. We have done a lot of things already in the almost 6 years since we have been in government. We have dealt with issues relating to people's homes. We've made announcements about what we're going to do in the future, again in respect of that. We've dealt with issues relating to sporting facilities. I think our record speaks for itself, but as we look to the future, this is a government that has understood throughout that the best investment we make is the investment that we make in education. And as a result, we are very proud to talk about the investment that we make in respect of people who go away to study at university, etc. I think it's time that we concentrate a little closer to home on the facilities that we provide for pupils in schools in Gibraltar and in the tools that we give our teachers to ensure that they can impart the learning that we all expect our children to have. Gibraltar's education has long been seen as an unequivocal success story. Unequivocal because of the commitment of the teachers and the commitment of all the professionals who are involved in delivering education in Gibraltar. But it is true that the raw material of the schools is not perhaps what we would expect in the 21st century in Gibraltar. That's why at the last election we had a very clear commitment to re-provide a number of the schools which are starting to look tired, which are no longer, in our view, fit for the 21st century, although they may still be fit for purpose. And so today we're going to be making an announcement which I think is an absolute revolution in respect of the educational establishments available in Gibraltar. The announcement will be in keeping with our manifesto commitment to announce the building of new schools, but in particular it will exceed the electoral commitment because both comprehensive schools will now be rebuilt, not just one of them. It will exceed our electoral commitment also because St. Anne's School will also be reprovisioned and rebuilt, which was not envisaged at the time of the last general election. And refurbishments are being announced of those schools which are not going to be rebuilt. So today, I think that what we will be presenting to you will touch pupils of every single age range in Gibraltar schools. We'll be dealing from the very early stages of nursery years to A-level education and college education in Gibraltar. So everybody who is in contact with the educational system in Gibraltar from the age of 4 to the age of 18 and beyond will, I think, be positively touched by this announcement and the work that is going to be undertaken in the next 24 plus months. So, the first program that I'm happy to announce today is a program that will see a new Notre Dame school and a new St. Anne's school in the area of Laguna. This will require the temporary relocation of the Laguna Youth Club to St. Teresa's Hall and the adventure playground to be reprovisioned from its current site. A new area will be provided for a new youth club, and the sporting facilities which are presently enjoyed at the adventure playground will be provided for after hours for community use in part within the two new schools that will be at the site at Laguna. The second program which we'll announce will see a total refurbishment of the current Westside School site. That school will be relocated as a comprehensive school, and I'll announce where that is going in a moment. But Governor's Meadow School and Bishop Fitzgerald School, which are both very, very tired indeed, will be relocated to the current Westside School, where additionally we will also be providing the new and very much enhanced St. Martin's School facility. The third program that I announced today will be a totally new co-educational comprehensive school complex at Waterport, which will be comprised of two separate comprehensive schools. It is important that this is something I emphasize because although we believe that co-location is in the interests of pupils, We believe, as we believed at the general election, and we defended at the general election, and we will defend again today, we believe it is important that there should be two separate comprehensive schools. They may or may not be called Bayside or Westside. Once they are rebuilt, they will be rebuilt and relocated to the area at the entrance of Varelbeg Estate, which many people will know loosely as the area where Customs House is presently located. The fourth program of work is the rebuilding and relocation of the Gibraltar College of Further Education. Again, this is not something that was envisaged at the time of the general election. This is an additional program of work which will exceed the electoral commitment of the government. And the fifth program of work is the refurbishment and upgrading of St. Paul's School, St. Mary's School, and St. Joseph's First and Middle Schools, and the Hebrew schools, which are the schools which will not be relocated. Of course, I'm referring there to the government Hebrew school, not to the private schools. The plans for the new schools, as you would imagine, with the Minister for the Environment also being the Minister for Education, are designed to be as sustainable as possible and energy efficient, and they will include green areas, solar panels, and other environmental measures. Most importantly, the Department of Education and the professionals at the Department of Education and teachers have been and will continue to be fully involved in assessing the needs and designs that these schools will provide for. The Gibraltar Teachers Association, NASUWT, has been engaged on discussions on the plans and will continue to be fully consulted and involved in developing the ideas presented and in bringing forward their members' views as these plans develop to fruition. The programs are being planned to allow all the new educational establishments to be open for the start of term on Monday, the 2nd of September 2019. This is a tall order indeed, but it's one that I think every part of the administration will relish because it is a challenge for the benefit of all pupils of school age in Gibraltar. This will also coincide with the start of improved meal provision, co-education and expanded vocational pathways at secondary school level, the realignment of key stages and the making available of nursery education for all children as a result. The first works will start on the new site of Notre Dame School, which is slightly to the south of where the school is located now. And this and all the other school designs will now start the process of going through the town planning process for guidance and advice, as all government projects do. I must tell you that I think that this is a very, very worthy endeavour indeed. It will be a challenge to ensure that all of these schools are open for Monday, the 2nd of September 2019, but it is a challenge that we must meet. It is an obligation that we have acquired to our community. It is an obligation and our duty to our children to ensure that in the same way as we succeed in other endeavours and in other projects, we succeed in this project for them. Now, you've heard the words, but you will now see the designs of the schools that our children will have the benefit of after September 2019. And I think you will see that this will be hugely exciting for all of our community as we transform education in Gibraltar as we intend to do. Let us hope that the technology does not make it impossible to show you what will be happening in Gibraltar schools from now on. Let's see. This is the first program of work. You can see the relocation of Notre Dame School will be to the bottom of the picture. You can see the bridge across Winston Churchill Avenue more or less denoting the center of the site. And to the north of the picture, the top of the television screen, you can see the new St. Anne's School. John, do you want to talk us through the slide?
Yeah, happy to do that. If we then move to the next one, that gives you an angle from the northwest. You can see in the center what would be the restored, repositioned adventure playground, very much where it is now. This will be available to the schools during school hours but will be available to the community after hours. These are some concept pictures of the kind of feel that we're trying to bring in to the schools. Open plan, modern, colourful, accommodating. And this is the entrance from the west. You would go up the steps and you would move to the right to Notre Dame, to the left to St. Anne's, very similar to what we have now in St. Bernard's School. There will of course be accessibility for disabled and so on. You could see earlier on that this is a view of the new adventure playground, which is between the schools, will be accessible to both. And you saw in the previous slide a sports facility which will be available also for community use for the community, particularly the community of the area. This is another view looking in the opposite direction towards the tower blocks. These designs have now been signed off by the teachers. And this is the one that's going to start first. The idea is that Notre Dame School will be moving next September to the new site, and then work will start on the St. Anne's School, which would then move a year later. If we move on to as the Chief Minister has said, the new campus, which will for the first time integrate St. Martin's into a first and a middle school. The educational advantages of that are tremendous. We met with parents from St. Martin's yesterday and they really loved the idea and the concept. We want to do away with the stigma of St. Martin's like we did with the stigma of KG5, which the Chief Minister and I have alluded to very often in the past. So this is the new campus. At the front you can see Queensway and the sports hall, which will bear the crests of the 3 new schools. And I will try and explain how this is going to be. At the far end there's a little bit of a new build that you can see there, which is where St. Martin's will be. The government has also agreed that access will be allowed directly to St. Martin's through the development that will encompass housing. So there will be a drop-off direct to St. Martin's. So St. Martin's will be the left-hand side of that campus, with a new extension that you can see there, with a play area in the front, a play area behind, and there's further areas behind for planting and so on, and obviously access to the playing fields in front. The 3 schools will have access now to the playing field and to the sports hall on the far right. In the centre we will have Governor's Meadow, and on the right we will have Bishop Fitzgerald. So that is a view looking up towards the end, towards St. Martin's School, which will be in a quiet area, set apart, but being able to do outreach into the other schools in a seamless manner, which is something that we really want for the children of St. Martin's School. That is another view showing the new St. Martin's annex, which bridges the buildings immediately to the left and right of that new build, which will be the whole St. Martin's School, together with the play area there on the bottom left. Another view looking at St. Martin's from the playing fields. And yet another view of the St. Martin's area. This is now moving further eastwards. This is the Governor's Meadow buildings, showing an artist's impression there. You've noticed lots of trees and so on. And more concepts of the internal designs that we're looking at, a modern, fresh, colourful, vibrant facility. And another view of that complex. I think that. And that looks at the newly refurbished sports hall with the crests and so on in front. And now we move to Programme 3, which is Bayside and Westside Secondary Schools. I'm going to go through some stills and then we'll have a little video that will show you that in perspective. As the Chief Minister has said, we are on one campus, but they are two very different schools, and they will be designed in a way that they clearly look different. This is looking at it more or less from the Water Gardens area. The central circular building is the only facility which is purposely built to be shared, which is a library, and this was requested by the schools themselves, because like that you can maximize the resource available to all the children by pooling those resources into a central library. That gives you a view from the top. A lot of green, a lot of open areas. We're obviously using the terraces and the roofs to provide open space, and there you can see the library in the center, and to the right of the library, that's where the sports halls go. Obviously this is a concept design, the detailed design will be more specific, but there will be two sports halls, one for each school, and at the moment they're designed to be one on top of the other, but with ample space and available to two schools. Remember that we are building two schools. In the video you will see that design has been refined a little bit more. We are conscious of the fact that the old mould head is in that area. We're already discussing with the Heritage Trust what best treatment, this is just conceptual, what best treatment to take to protect that, important monument and to be able to highlight its importance within the new design. And the Heritage Trust has already been engaged in that. And these are some artists' impressions of the inside of both schools. And there you can see two sports halls, totally independent, with access. One will be accessed from one side and one from the other. And this shows the concept of the central hub, the meeting of minds, the library in the center, which will be accessed from both schools. And now, if I may, and if I get the technology right, if we look at this screen over here, we will see
yeah.
We lost it?
Yep.
Apologies for the jumping images.
They ran perfectly well on my computer this morning, as you can imagine.
They did indeed.
So
we go back to that. So we now continue with the fourth program, which is the new Gibraltar College, which will continue and improve on its consortium arrangement with Westside and Bayside for sixth form work. And this will be next to the car park on Devonshire Road, wrapped around the Cross of Sacrifice. And you can see some of the concept designs here as well. Above without and below with the college in place. With some ideas of the learning areas and common areas within the college. And just in case that people may be wondering where because there has been some public concerns expressed about the relocation of the youth club. The youth club will be fully reprovided for, I think it shows, and this is very early concept, it's not going to look like that, but it will be in that area there to the south of where it is now. Right, and if I can go back. And leave it there. That's
okay. Thank you very much. Those are the images which show you what we're planning. Many of you will have been involved in reporting on the proposals for a new St. Bernard's and the proposals for a new university. And you will have seen our concept designs for St. Bernard's, and you've seen our designs for the university. These are not just designs which we are showing you as pretty pictures. We are committed to these designs becoming a reality. You saw that at St. Bernard's, which is now an operating reality as a first and middle school, and you've seen that at the university, which is now an operating reality as Gibraltar's first university. So I think we have a good track record of delivering what you see in these images. We are almost halfway through our term in office. And we will deliver these new educational establishments by the beginning of term in September 2019. The work of relocating the facilities that we need to move in order to develop these new schools is undoubtedly the biggest problem that any Gibraltarian cabinet has. The Deputy Chief Minister has been leading on issues relating to lands. The Chief Technical Officer has been assisting us in the movement of existing facilities to enable us to start the process of the school works commencing. It really is a head breaker, and Joseph has been leading on those issues, in particular also to deal with how land is released for financing of the new projects.
Just to say a few words on that, I think this is one of the most significant announcements that the government has ever made in this room. It's a third in a series of announcements relating to projects. We saw the one on the sporting facilities, then more recently the one on new housing, and now the third one on new education facilities. This latest announcement will have a profound effect on the lives of thousands of Gibraltarian children, and therefore thousands of families, and it will have a positive effect on their future education. As the Chief Minister has rightly said, a considerable amount of juggling with land and is taking place at the moment. Gibraltar, as you know, does not have much land. The land that we have is either handed over by the Ministry of Defence, or it's land which we create by reclaiming it from the sea. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We're now trying to see where to fit the different entities that need to be relocated. So a considerable amount of work has already been done in this respect by the Chief Technical Officer and by the Lands Office up in my department, and that's already in train, and different plots of land have been identified for different purposes. And as the Chief Minister said, also the question of releasing land for development, which will in some way pay for the projects. So the education is an investment in the future, and I think the announcement the government has made today reaffirms our absolute commitment to the education of our children going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think that you've heard now and seen what the projects are going to look like, but in some of what I was saying in my introduction, I also talked about key stages, etc. The educational value of what we're going to do cannot be underestimated, not just in terms of the bricks and mortar of the classroom, not just in terms of the educational environment, but the changes that will come along as a result of these developments. The most high profile of the changes, of course, will be the introduction of co-education, which will start in the two separate comprehensive schools there will be. That is obvious. It's an issue that's been debated in the Parliament. It's going to be very visible when you see boys and girls going to the same comprehensive establishment. But there is a lot underlying the announcement of key stages and a lot underlying these physical changes that you will see. There will also be hot lunches provided, which will have a nutritional effect, which will require other changes in the planning for the schools as we provide kitchens, etc. But I think the best person to take us through the educational value of what is going to be done is the Minister for Education, John Cortes.
Thank you very much. Chief Minister has summarized much of what I have to say. Clearly, with new schools, it gives us the opportunity to kickstart a lot of these things. And even though obviously it's a challenge which we will meet in having the schools bricks and mortar ready in 2 years, it does give us those 2 years to work on the educational matters that we have to change. Co-education clearly is a key one, and we're already working, the department is already working on how this is going to be rolled out. The introduction of T-levels and expansion of vocational pathways, again a wonderful opportunity with new facilities, including the relocation of the college for this to happen. The key stage realignment with children going into the comprehensive schools 1 year earlier than they do at the present stage. They used to do that when I was at school, so going back to that. But this is what educationalists feel is the correct time to move them to the new schools. And they will be moving into wonderful new facilities, which are actually not adjusted and changed from something that's there now, but will be new and purpose-built with co-education in mind. At the same time, we are bringing in new policies to do with capability, grievance procedures, health and safety and so on, which the department will be developing. And we're working very hard in enhancing counselling and mental health support. Another thing that again the Chief Minister mentioned earlier is enhanced nursery provision, so that all young children of nursery age will now have the option of going to a government nursery, which is something very important, as well as expanded language school to include Mandarin and computer programming, and looking further, not directly related to the changing of schools, but locally sourced PGCEs, teacher qualifications, which we can run here at the same time as we expand the vocational pathways, and of course the nutritional, improving the nutritional provision, which the Chief Minister has also alluded to. So on the whole, hugely exciting. Chief Minister used the word revolution, and I will repeat that as well. It is really a revolution, and it will affect every single family in Gibraltar, probably for the next 50 years and beyond. So we really are creating the Gibraltarian of the future in what we are very proud to have presented today.
Thank you very much. This is something for our community to be proud of, something to be united around. So I want to once again extend the thanks of the government, in particular to the Department of Education, to the GTA, to the heads and deputies of the schools who have been working with the Department of Education and the Minister for Education, to the teachers and the parents who will be at the front line of enjoying these facilities through the children, and of course to the Heritage Trust that has been working with the Department of Education on issues like the mole head, etc. There are two people in this room, one of them of whom is very happy and one of whom has a lot of work to do. The Director of Education, Darren Grech, who's been working very hard on these issues and is no doubt one of the happiest people in the room today, and the Chief Technical Officer, Hector Montado, who has his work cut out for the next 24 months and has been working intensely on this already for many months. As the representatives of the people of Gibraltar, we could not be prouder of the announcement that we are making today. We think this is all about the future. It's all about the boys and girls in those schools and the facilities that we give them. We describe ourselves accurately as a community with the fourth highest GDP per capita ratio in the world. It's about time our children experience that sort of facility that would be associated with a community like that in the schools that we put at their disposal. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon. I think the community will see today as the day when we started to really change education in Gibraltar. Thank you very much.